My girlfriend, 25F, and I's 29M had an argument, and we haven't really spoken in a couple of days. I want to talk to her about what happened, but I don't know what to do. My girlfriend and I had a silly argument, but it brought up some ongoing issues. We have not really communicated in the 2 days since. I purchased her flowers, but she will not be returning home until much later tonight. I am uncertain how to bring up the matter with her. I still feel resentful, and I do not feel capable of talking to her normally until we have addressed the disagreement. Apologies in advance for the lengthy message. I am unsure about what to do. My girlfriend of 1.5 years booked a hotel through Booking.com, but she did not receive a booking confirmation or reservation number. She contacted Booking.com, who referred her to the hotel, which in turn demanded a booking number. The situation was chaotic. Yesterday morning, my girlfriend showed me the email from the hotel requesting the booking number, which she, of course, didn't have. That is where the argument began. I asked her if she was sure she had completed the booking. I thought there might have been a technical issue on the site that had interrupted the booking process. Annoyed, she replied, "I am not foolish. Of course I did." This comment stung. I was not implying that she was foolish, and it bothers me when she suggests I am. I view her as the smartest person I know. She is sensitive about her intelligence, and I make a conscious effort to avoid any hint that she is unintelligent, which makes it very distressing for me. She is also aware of her sensitivity and has expressed to me how it can irritate her. I inquired, "When you finished the booking, did you see the confirmation page?" She was uncertain. She asserted that she had provided her card details and completed the process. "Sometimes," I replied, "a payment can conclude without finalizing the booking. It could have been a technical error, or perhaps the payment opened a new tab and closed the previous one, mistakenly thinking it was done. It could have been any number of things," I suggested. Every question seemed to further irritate her. I attempted to clarify my intentions, but ultimately, she turned her focus to her phone and ignored me. Realizing she was not genuinely listening, I walked away angrily and said, "At least pay attention to what I am saying. Don't waste my time." In a mocking tone, she retorted, "No, you go. I will not waste your time." This struck at two things that I am sensitive about, both of which she knows. First, I cannot tolerate being ignored. It affects me more deeply than it does for most people. Second, it truly pains me when she expresses frustration audibly. It makes me feel foolish. Occasionally, when I seek clarification, she will audibly sigh or respond in a tone that implies the answer should be obvious. I have repeatedly requested that she be mindful of how she responds, as it feels to me like she dismisses it because of my sensitivity. I wanted to resolve things before I went to work. About 5 or 10 minutes later, I returned to the room. I reassured her that I was not accusing her of being foolish. She told me that regardless, my tone conveyed a different message. I reassured her again that I meant no offense. If my tone expressed otherwise, I apologize, but that was not my intention. I simply wanted her to view the problem from a different perspective. I asked her to acknowledge her part in the disagreement as well. She threw her hands up in exasperation, saying, "Yes, it is all my fault. I am always wrong." And with that, we concluded our argument on a sour note. She left for work while I worked from home. I could not concentrate throughout the day. I felt miserable and unwell. We exchanged brief messages about dinner over WhatsApp. I mentioned I would prepare something. When she returned home, I was exercising. She peeked around the door and asked what I had planned. In the kitchen, before I seated myself, she gestured for a hug and we embraced. We did not engage in conversation, although she mentioned a few things, but I lacked the energy to respond. I struggled to concentrate at work all day. She shared some positive personal news and I replied, "That's nice." She sighed. Since then, she has not spoken to me properly. In the living room, she put on headphones and scrolled through her phone before leaving for the theater. I attempted to initiate contact, but she did not respond. During her absence, I sent a text to apologize. I explained that I had no energy and was still upset from the morning. She replied, "Okay," and then, "I'm sorry." When she returned home, she did not say hello. With her headphones on, she prepared for bed and ignored me. I got ready for bed as well. I lay next to her, but she continued to ignore me. Frustrated, I took my bedding. She asked where I was going, and I told her I would be sleeping in the other room. The following morning, I hugged her. She felt like a limp presence in my arms, but she did return the gesture. She did not speak to me. I went to my office to work. The last thing she said to me was goodbye as I was in a meeting. In the middle of the day, I informed her that her favorite band was having a sale if she wanted something. She did not respond. During lunch, I went and bought her flowers, attaching a note to the vase that said, "I'm sorry we argued." A couple of hours after lunch, she informed me that she would not be home for dinner as she was going out with friends, and she did not know when she would return. I am uncertain about what to do. I love her more than I have ever loved anyone. I am completely devoted to her. We have had disagreements in the past and have always resolved them within a day. This is the longest she has gone without speaking to me since our relationship began. I believe that, generally, we are both accountable for our disagreements, and that it is our responsibility to understand why the argument occurred and how to prevent future conflicts. It is challenging to get us to a point where we both recognize what triggered the disagreement. Sometimes it takes me a prolonged period of admitting my faults and apologizing for my part before we reach a stage where she acknowledges her own mistakes. We do arrive at that understanding, but it often takes considerable time. Thus far, our approach has been beneficial. We argue less frequently. However, this was our most significant conflict yet. It is not severe enough to jeopardize our relationship. In any case, I am at a loss regarding what to do. I do not see myself as entirely faultless, yet I am struggling to understand her behavior. Story 2. I'm getting terrified that my 34F wife and I, 33M, are going down a bad road. Things became quite difficult for approximately 2 years as we were continuously working different shifts, leading to a sense of distance between us. I found this situation unsatisfactory. I desired a wife, not a roommate whom I never saw. Furthermore, I changed jobs to what was intended to be a significantly better position, and it indeed was for the initial few months. However, it deteriorated to a very low point, and I found myself working my part-time job just as much. As a result, I lost a considerable amount of time at home and was still struggling financially. The situation was not ideal, and on multiple occasions, I had to ask her for assistance, which she provided. However, not seeing her was weighing heavily on me, exacerbating my feelings of inadequacy as a man. I became cold and distant instead of addressing my issues more assertively, and when things escalated, I threatened to leave as I felt like giving up. We also emotionally drifted apart and rarely communicated even when we had time together. I behaved poorly, often displaying an unpleasant attitude and criticizing her job rather than being honest and opening up. This was my greatest mistake and my most significant regret. Then, she became involved with someone she met at her new job after 9 weeks. Once again, I consulted a lawyer, convinced that I was finished. Then I attempted to envision life without her presence, and it felt utterly bleak. She is my best friend, my lifelong partner. She is the only person with whom I wish to spend every day, the only one I want to see, and certainly the only one I want to see me. I cherish that, and I still do. Therefore, we considered therapy as a potential solution. However, that never came to fruition. Like any relationship struggle, we have experienced highs and lows, but it has been wonderful to have my affectionate, sweet wife back and to value the time we share now. About a week ago, she began acting strangely and then sent me pictures one night while still behaving unusually. Then she concealed her phone for the first time in a long while before taking a shower. Consequently, I went through it and discovered that my wife is apparently a camgirl on Reddit. Now, to be completely transparent, about 2 years ago when we rarely saw each other and had not been intimate, I did look at adult content when I felt the urge. I was unaware that Reddit hosted adult material, but I was part of several gruesome subreddits, which began to filter in, and yes, there may have been a few nights when I viewed some adult content on Reddit. However, I was not communicating or flirting with anyone. I was not engaging in any sexual activity with them, sending pictures or anything. It was never about them. I was frustrated because I was feeling desires that my wife was not fulfilling, as she spent excessive time with her supervisor at some factory for 12 hours each night. He had developed an obsession with her and was a twisted, manipulative individual. When our relationship consisted solely of arguments, it made me wonder if someone else might be making her happier. We also hadn't created any videos or anything together in years. However, we have since done that, and the few times I acted out of line were because I started by viewing our videos, and that is all I wish to see or think about. Now, having discovered everything I did on her Reddit account, I realized that she lost her sense of self about a year ago, which prompted her to display her body to the entire internet. As troubling as that situation was, I felt I could have navigated through it. What I cannot process is her randomly sending me snaps and then discovering those snaps on Reddit days later. This has persisted for some time. She deleted many, but the messages revealed the truth about how explicit the images were. Unfortunately, I am uncertain how my situation will ultimately conclude. I dropped all the hints I could muster. I even left Reddit open on her phone. She is aware that I know and seems intent on keeping those up, so I arranged a meeting with my lawyer for November. As tragic as the concept of losing my best friend is, I truly cannot continue on this path. Each day, I contemplate how things could have been different had we pursued therapy. And each day, I regret that we did not. Our love and marriage are not perfect, but they have been nearly perfect for me, as has she. Regardless of her actions, I cannot remove her from my thoughts. Now I must soon decide whether I believe we can resolve this. I informed her that we need to talk soon, and I hope we do. We have resolved everything in the past. We can work through any issues and emerge stronger. However, I cannot continue as we have been. I believe we have both reached a point where we desire improvement or closure. I am certain that I do not want it to end, and she feels the same. She is my best friend. She is the only friend I want. I genuinely believe that I am her best friend as well. We understand each other perfectly, and everything about our relationship fits together seamlessly, creating pure joy. I do not know if I will ever be sufficient for her, or if these issues will cease, but I am not prepared to simply give up without a fight. I think we should have pursued therapy back in November, and I believe we should do so now. There is nothing more beautiful or remarkable in this world than a joyful, loving marriage. If two individuals are willing to fight for one another, anything is possible. I am uncertain why I just unleashed my emotions in this post. I deleted the app back in November when we opted to stay together because she preferred that I did not have it. I assumed she thought I would view adult content, but now I understand that she wanted to keep that on her phone and not on mine for a reason. I do not have many people with whom to discuss this, and it feels too embarrassing to confide in many real individuals anyway. If anyone has genuine experience with therapy, please share whether it truly works. Do they actually provide help or merely worsen things for financial gain? If anyone reads this, please just keep us in your thoughts. I cherish my life immensely because she is my life, and the notion of losing her is the most terrifying thought in the world. I know she loves me too. I believe we could be better for one another and grow old together in happiness. Please keep us in your thoughts. Story 3. Me 28M/her 45F dating on /off for 4 years. Want to tie the knot but have issues with her mother and her 24M son that live at her home. Do I cut it off or try to find middle ground? I, a 28-year-old male, and she, a 45-year-old female, have been in an on and off relationship for 4 years now. We initially dated for a year and a half, followed by a brief split after a few weeks, and have now been together again for approximately 2 solid years, without any significant issues. I am a corn-fed white man from the Chicagoland area, while she is a native Puerto Rican woman. Pay disparity when our relationship began. She was the primary earner with an average salary of $95,000 per year, excluding overtime, while I earned $65,000 per year without overtime. Over the past 4 years, I have gained experience in my profession, and about 6 months ago, I accepted a position as operations manager in the office, moving out of the field, and my salary is now $105,000. Conversely, she took a pay cut and changed jobs 3 months ago, going from $48 per hour to $40, which, though not excessively large, combined with the absence of overtime, becomes quite considerable. She now works 70 hours during a bi-weekly pay period rather than the previous 90 to 100 hours. Living together, then separately during the first year and a half, I moved in with her after about 6 months of dating. Everything was fine at that time since I was often on the road and only home on weekends. However, circumstances arose, we ended the relationship, and I moved out. Fast forward 3 weeks, we reconciled, but this time I decided to stay on my own while visiting her on weekends. After about 6 weeks, we split again, but we got back together after just 1 week, and we have now been strong together for 2 years. I still live independently, and she resides in her home with her mother and her 24-year-old son. Mother and son, her son works but refuses to drive. His mother bought him a car when he turned 18, but he has never driven it and instead uses rideshare services or accepts rides from his mother or friends. He works at Amazon, earning $25 per hour, lacking aspirations, and showing no desire to advance or take on more responsibilities. His mother does not drive either and has never possessed a driver's license, spending 3 months at their house and 3 months in Puerto Rico, continuously alternating. The girlfriend covers her airfare. Currently, her son's job is a 15-minute drive from their home. He does not contribute around the house, does not assist with maintenance, and his mother still does his laundry while he does not pay rent. This context is important for later. I view him as a freeloader, but she sees her son as sweet and endearing. Commuting my current residence is located precisely between my office and her home, which was the best I could afford before I accepted the office position. It takes 45 minutes to reach her and 45 minutes to get to the office. Therefore, it is approximately 1 hour and 15 minutes from the office to her house when not during rush hour. Previously, as a road warrior, I was never in the office, so it never mattered to me. I now spend 10 hours in the office, and the last thing I want to do is spend an additional 2 to 3 hours daily commuting. Her commute is also 45 minutes, heading in a different direction. Adoption. To keep it brief, I wanted to have a child. She was open to the idea. However, we must pursue adoption, as she had her reproductive organs removed in her late 30s, which prevents her from becoming pregnant. The predicament. After I initially moved out of her home, I declared I never wanted to live there again, which holds true for several reasons. Now that I have been contemplating marriage since my promotion and office position, I envision a way to see her more often than just on weekends and occasionally on weekdays if we were to find a different place and buy a house together. I brought this up last weekend, and it created some tension between us. She presented me with 2 options. Option 1, we purchase a house together, but it must be within 15 minutes of her son's workplace, which means my commute would not significantly change, and I would continue spending 2 to 3 hours commuting. Additionally, she would not accept anything less than a minimum of 4 bedrooms and 3 bathrooms, which is costly in the Chicago suburbs. Option 2, we keep her current house with 3 bedrooms and 2.5 bathrooms, which has a monthly mortgage of $2,200 plus utilities, and her son would rent it from her, allowing his friends to live there as well. Then we can buy a house together for the 2 of us and her mother, but she insists on a minimum of 3 bedrooms and 2.5 bathrooms, ruling out condos or townhomes, only single-family homes, which are still not affordable. She has provided me with a specific area to search, known colloquially as the I-355 corridor by Chicago residents, but it must be north of I-55. This area would be wonderful and relatively affordable if we considered a townhouse or condo. My commute would be about 30 minutes, and so would hers. My concern is that if I choose option 2, her son or his friends may fail to meet their financial responsibilities for the house, leaving us to cover those costs as well. I do not want to force her to choose between me and her son or mother, but I cannot continue to live apart from each other. I would prefer to end the relationship rather than persist under these circumstances. I acknowledge that many have advised me over the past 4 years about the cultural differences in family dynamics. Option 2 places considerable trust in her son, who has demonstrated a lack of motivation and ambition. I do not even view option 1 as a viable choice. Summary: I am a 28-year-old male in an on-and-off relationship with a 45-year-old female, facing difficulties regarding purchasing a house together. My income has risen, while her recent job change has decreased hers. She desires to buy a home near her son's job or maintain her current residence for him to rent. However, I worry about depending on her unmotivated son for rent and the implications for our relationship if we continue living separately. Story 4. 37M. What am I even doing? Dating has become too painful, and I am a wreck, probably writing this more for me than anything. I believe I am composing this more for my own sake. I created this after attempting to sleep early, waking up, and now realizing I cannot drift off again. I feel worse than empty. Recently, I have merely been enduring the days. I work in a significant field, but it is quite demanding. A decade of this, combined with the pervasive anxiety in the world, has left me feeling exhausted. Most individuals do not perceive it, but it is debilitating. I cannot socialize with friends, I simply work and rest. My health is not in the best condition. Anxiety is rendering it impossible to pursue what I wish to do. For over a year, I had been dating a younger girl, but we often spent time apart, with her being overseas for half that duration. This did not alleviate my loneliness. Eventually, I lost interest in her. She was consistently so joyful and laid back, while I tend to be more serious and brooding. Since then, I stopped making genuine efforts to form connections and instead distracted myself by browsing dating applications. After several months, I finally clicked with someone. She was the most amusing person I had encountered in years, exceptionally well-read and dedicated. I began to feel optimistic for the first time in a long while, envisioning a future where, even if it was challenging, I would not be alone. She was also remarkably anxious, which caused me to adopt a supportive role to help her feel at ease. We spent hours conversing on the phone, reluctant to end the call. I made sure to be considerate and arranged our date to ensure it was as comfortable as possible for her. I proposed a short hike in a large park near her home to enjoy something low pressure since she had a performance later, and I did not want her to feel obligated. I provided her with an easy option to cancel, letting her know that if it didn't work out, we could attempt again another time. At the last moment, she pulled out, saying she was upset due to work problems. I offered to reschedule, even suggesting a different, simpler plan. I would meet her in her neighborhood, pick up coffee to go, and then head home. It would be akin to casually running into each other. I ensured to tell her I was only there for the coffee so she could decline last minute without any trouble. We had been very candid with each other about our past relationships, mental health, and what we were seeking. When we finally met, she appeared even more stunning than in her pictures, and our conversations were delightful. I made her laugh frequently, and everything felt authentic. In retrospect, I might have said some things that were not what she wanted to hear, but I genuinely believed we had moved past games due to our transparency. I informed her I was not looking for anything casual and that I wanted to find someone with whom I could feel comfortable. From everything she had shared, it seemed she desired the same. I also mentioned that at the barber's the day before, I had talked about her, expressing how funny I found her. At the conclusion of our time together, as we parted, I inquired if she wanted another hug, and she eagerly consented. I told her, "No pressure, think about it, and if you wish, let's organize a date later." She expressed her enthusiasm for that, and as we separated, I jokingly added, "The answer can be no, don't worry." She laughed and confidently remarked, "Oh, it's not going to be." I did not reach out immediately, not wanting to appear needy or intrusive. The following day, I contacted her just to ask how her show went. She responded later. I replied to her message, but she did not respond for some time. When she did, it was during my last meeting of the day. I read her message and felt devastated. The classic, "It's not you, it's me." She explained that she was still recovering from a past relationship and did not think we were aligned. I composed a response, stating I was nervous too and may have come off incorrectly, but that I would love to converse again if she felt my intentions were not evident. Afterward, I indulged in junk food and attempted to go to bed early to dull my emotions. However, I woke up after vivid dreams, unable to sleep, and checked my phone. She had replied hours earlier, stating she was not in the right mindset for a relationship, that she had emotional walls, and that there had not been any cringe moments. I thanked her for her honesty and requested clarification since everything had been communicated through text. She was intelligent, witty, humorous, and shared similar values and life aspirations. We wanted the same things in life. Our ideal days, hobbies, and future plans were all in harmony. I didn't initially view her in a sexual manner. I envisioned us taking road trips, hiking, climbing, and lounging in hammocks. Typically, I tend to idealize people without truly knowing them, but this time, I was clear in my communication and ensured to listen attentively. It just feels disappointing. All my siblings are married, all my friends are in relationships and starting families. I cannot seem to maintain a relationship, and just when I felt like I had something more, it turned out I was clearly mistaken. What is more disheartening than having no hope is catching a glimpse of it, only to see it fade away. While I recognize she expressed that it's her, the whole, it's me, not you, is quite cliched. In this situation, it seems that after meeting me, I must have said something or appeared different from what she wanted. For context, I have dated consistently for most of my life. I have lived with a partner and maintained long-distance relationships. I rarely encounter issues when meeting people in person. I have been with more people than I can count and have moved beyond that phase. I am on good terms with most of my previous partners, except for the one where we thought we would marry but didn't. Most of my friends are women. I know I could attract and initiate a relationship, but more often than not, I find myself thinking in sexual terms. Here, I genuinely saw more. I am growing weary, I am out of shape, and I am simply not happy. I feel profoundly lonely, and friends do not come close to filling that void. I am becoming so socially anxious that I lack the motivation to date anyone. After swiping thousands of times, this felt like someone I could scarcely believe I would encounter. Story 5. Is she insecure, or am I the problem? Manipulation or misunderstanding? Preface: feel free to share your thoughts. What would you do in my position? I want to be clear, I do not intend to take any action regarding this. I am focused on moving forward and accepting the boundaries they, or more specifically, she, established. I have not communicated with this acquaintance in approximately a year. To be precise, our last call was in August 2020. For this detail is significant, because his significant other, female, 29, made it evident that she does not want me in contact with him, male, 27. In brief, I visited his home country in Europe for a summer job, from July to the end of August 2024. We had not conversed in a year, since July 2023, but I called him when I arrived, July 2024. He returned my call, but time slipped away from me and I did not return it. 2 weeks into my vacation and another 2 weeks later, after starting my job fell through. Considering I had more time, it is now August 2024, I reached out again and received no reply. Interestingly, during my vacation, I was visiting a friend, female, 25, who is from the same country as him. She shared one of my Instagram stories. His girlfriend, who follows my friend, viewed the story, then immediately went to my account and viewed my story as well. After that, he abruptly stopped watching my stories entirely. I found it peculiar that right after she viewed my story, he ceased watching mine. It seemed deliberate. After multiple unanswered calls, I left a voice message asking if I had done something wrong. An hour later, he finally returned my call. That's when he told me, "We cannot be friends, I am engaged to be married. My fiancé is not comfortable with our friendship." It turns out that when I confessed my feelings to him over a year and a half ago, 2 years ago now, he informed his, then girlfriend, now wife, about it. She told him she felt uneasy with our friendship. Some background: when I initially confessed, January 2023, he clearly stated that he only viewed me as a friend. I respected that and took a step back because I recognized that I needed space to process my feelings. 6 months later, I reached out again, July 2023. He appeared excited to talk, even indicating we would call again the following day. That day never arrived. Now I comprehend why he had informed his girlfriend, now wife, about our reconnection, and she instructed him to cut ties with me. Fast forward to last summer, August 2024, when I was in his country and reached out, unaware of why he had stopped communicating with me a year earlier. That is when he conveyed that he could not be my friend anymore. I told him it felt like a forever goodbye, and he responded, "No, this is not a goodbye but a see you later." That was our final conversation, and I have not reached out since. Now, this is where things become intriguing. A few months later, November 2024, I unexpectedly received a recommended Instagram story for an account to follow. It was a dog account and it featured his dog. I initially assumed it was his account, as all the captions were in English. For context, his wife speaks a little English. She is Chinese and typically writes captions in Chinese. I thought, oh, cute. Many of our mutual friends follow it. Why not? Big mistake. The next day, the individual in question unfollowed me from his personal account. Just take a guess at who owned the dog account. His wife. Not only had she made him unfollow me, but the following day, she followed my best friend on the dog account, but not me. I was the sole person she did not follow back. Not sure if this was intended to be petty. A few days later, she posted a cute video of her and her husband studying his native language together on the dog account. I thought it was a bit random for a dog account, but okay. Right after posting this video, she followed me back. I might be interpreting this too much, but it felt deliberate, like she intended to send a message exhibiting her perfect relationship. Regardless, I just let it go, thought it was a cute video and moved on. But wait, there's more. Last week, she posted a screenshot of her story views, concealing most of the accounts but highlighting one specific account. She included a caption that read, "My dad's ex-girlfriend paid attention and added me. In fact, if you are free, you can pay attention to your boyfriend or go to the gym together." For context, she writes her captions as though they come from the dog's perspective, except for the video of them studying together that was in the first person, which was amusing. You might be wondering, what's the significance? Well, the individual she singled out and called out was his actual ex-girlfriend, whom he broke up with in September 2021. I thought, wow, publicly calling out his ex for viewing an Instagram story about a dog. It felt unnecessary. It was not just humiliating for the ex, but also kind of mean. It even felt like she was subtly fat-shaming with the gym comment. Perhaps I'm reaching, not sure. Considering how she has subtly shown contempt for me, I could not help but feel like she was also conveying a passive-aggressive message toward me without directly addressing me. Regardless, it made me realize how insecure and emotionally immature she is. Despite all this drama, I simply moved on with my day. Until the next day, I was looking at the dog account and surprise, I was blocked. For what reason? I have no idea. I had nothing to do with the ex or anything she posted. Out of curiosity, I checked to see if I was blocked from their personal accounts as well. I was not. Until a day later. Suddenly, I was blocked from my acquaintance's personal account too, the individual I have been discussing. Not just on my main profile but also on my backup account. I have no idea how he knew about that. Talk about a close watch. His wife, however, did not block me. Final thoughts. Initially, I considered reaching out to her, perhaps to clarify any misunderstandings or reassure her that I do not pose a threat. But the more I contemplate it, the more I recognize that if she wanted to have that discussion, she would have. At the end of the day, she has made her decision about me, and I will not waste my energy attempting to prove her wrong. Story 6. My GF 18F and I 18M both cheated on each other. What happens next? About 5 months into our relationship, I relocated far away to attend a music conservatory. We maintained a long-distance relationship, and everything was going quite well. The first 3 months were good, and we met each other during the Thanksgiving break. We were both incredibly happy and eager to be reunited. After that, I left again, but this time only for 3 weeks since I would return for winter break. During those 3 weeks, I began to feel a lot of stress and became obsessed with my coursework, my projects, and most significantly, practicing my instrument. There were several instances where I felt like a failure and that I wasn't good enough. Throughout those weeks, I started to isolate myself, becoming increasingly distant from my friends, my dad and mom, who were very supportive, and my girlfriend, who was also incredibly supportive. There were nights when I would hardly respond to her messages or seemed unengaged. She often worried, and I was vague with her. Mostly, she became upset because I went hours without texting her or informing her that I would be busy. I felt like such a failure, and I became fixated on practicing and improving. Eventually, I told my girlfriend I wanted a break to concentrate on my music. She was sad but said it was okay, she would wait for me. Technically, we were not together, but we continued to talk every day. I just couldn't help myself. I needed to communicate with her. I became so mentally unstable that I occasionally cried in one of the buildings, in a public area. There was a girl, let's refer to her as A, who approached me and offered comfort. I realized it was unusual, so I kept my distance to avoid any misunderstandings. However, as time passed, she continued to approach me more frequently, and it led to moments where she would comfort me, and I would simply hug her and say kind words to her. During that time, my girlfriend and I were still on a break. As winter break approached, I added on Snapchat. We started to communicate more, and she would compliment me and send me good morning texts each day. I understood it was inappropriate, but I didn't know how to end it. I was already feeling mentally fragile. When I returned home, I saw my girlfriend. Although we were on a break, we spent time together every day. Yet continued to text and message me. Instead of removing her from my friends list, I responded. Occasionally, I would send her compliments or flirty messages. My girlfriend and I had sex for the first time, and I asked her to resume our relationship. That meant a great deal to me. But for some reason, I didn't cease communication with her until 2 days later, when I decided it had gone too far. One evening, my girlfriend and I were watching a movie in my bed. I left my phone next to the bed while going to the bathroom, and when I returned, she had checked my Snapchat. She discovered that I had been texting A, and she became very angry and hurt. She said hurtful things to me, and we both cried that night. The next day, we talked it out. She said she understood I made a mistake, but I felt overwhelming guilt and regret that I broke down in her arms. She told me we could move past this and that we should focus on solutions, not the issues. She comforted me, and I comforted her. Everything seemed to be fine. We spent most of the winter break together as if nothing had occurred. We were incredibly happy, and I had blocked her from all platforms. However, on the last day of break, my girlfriend informed me that she needed space because she was very hurt. I tried everything, but she wanted to end our relationship, so we broke up. 2 days later, she texted me saying she couldn't handle the separation and wanted to get back together. I was overjoyed and thrilled. I was prepared to give her all my heart and effort. I made her gifts, posted about her for our 8-month anniversary, and texted her constantly, treating her the way she deserved to be treated. I realized she still felt hurt. Occasionally, she would share her thoughts about wanting to do the same thing to me to retaliate because she didn't want to appear like the fool who got cheated on and did nothing. I explained to her that revenge would not solve anything. It would only complicate matters further. She agreed and even wrote me a letter stating she wouldn't do that to me, although I had done it to her. Then one day, she suddenly became very distant. She told me she wanted to take a break because she was frightened. She had many thoughts about being unfaithful, and she needed time to calm down. I told her it was okay. That night, I sent her a long message assuring her that I would be there for her regardless of the situation. Even though we were not together, I still wanted her to receive the gifts I had created for her, which had already been mailed. She then told me she couldn't continue this way and wished to reconcile again. She said she would try to suppress her intrusive thoughts. We stayed together for about 2 weeks, and everything seemed fine until yesterday. She went out with some friends and drank. It's legal at 18 where I live. A guy contacted her, someone who had previously tried to pursue her. He invited her to join him and his friends, leading to a small gathering at his apartment. I was in my dorm, anxious because I was unaware of all this. She suddenly started acting distant and aloof over text. She wouldn't respond to me, even when I asked if she was all right. I had to inquire who she was with, and that's when she told me she was with him. I assured her it was fine as I trusted her, but then she didn't reply for a considerable time. It was getting late. Around 3 a.m., I texted her again, but she remained distant. I had stayed up at my desk, my phone beside me, waiting for her response. Eventually, I asked if I could call her. She consented. She was quite inebriated. Then she divulged that she had kissed the guy before leaving. They had made out for a short while, and that was the extent of it. I feel incredibly terrible. She told me it was something she needed to remove from her system, that it was an anger she experienced, but insisted it wouldn't happen again and we would handle things correctly from then on. At this stage, I don't know what to do. I am uncertain if this has turned toxic. I genuinely believe that she and I love each other, and we made a commitment to remain together and marry. However, I am unsure how to feel about this. Is this fair? Do we stand on equal ground now, even though I never kissed anyone? Story 7. I finally told the girl I've had a massive crush on for years how I feel. I finally told the girl I have had feelings for over the years how I truly felt. There is this girl I have known for approximately 7 years. She was in a profoundly abusive relationship when we first met, and I always felt compassion for her, trying to offer support and be that shoulder to lean on, while also providing advice. To avoid writing an extensive novel, I won't delve into too many details. However, I have always been there for her emotionally, and in fairness, she reciprocated. After my difficult breakup, this girl was consistently there for me, just as I was there for her. Gradually, I began to develop incredibly strong feelings for her. It started to feel almost cliché, like something out of a movie, the one that got away. I never found the courage to genuinely express my feelings, and one night she even stayed over, sleeping in my bed wearing just pajamas. I still couldn't make a move because I genuinely didn't want to jeopardize the friendship we had. But my feelings were so intense that in nearly every situation we were in together, I second-guessed everything she said, constantly wondering if there was some deeper implication or subtle hints she might be giving and whether she felt the same way about me. That night became the turning point. I missed my opportunity. A week later, she began discussing this guy she met at work. Naturally, I felt jealousy but tried to disguise it and be the supportive friend I ought to be. Months later, she started dating this guy. 3 years later, we are here now. That guy betrayed her and abruptly left her in their apartment, with 8 months still remaining on their lease. The first male friend she called was me. She talked endlessly about how she had mentally checked out a year ago and was simply waiting for the relationship to end, and honestly, she seemed to be coping remarkably well. Then things became strange. She revealed she hadn't had sex in a year, even while dating him, and now all of his friends were messaging her for sex. She even stated, "I just kind of need something with someone without emotional ties," implying a friends with benefits arrangement. She shared all these thoughts in rapid succession, and at this point, I genuinely couldn't tell if she was merely venting to someone she felt at ease with or if she called me as a rebound, dropping the clearest hints ever. Later, she lay next to me, with her underwear peeking out and facing toward me, and I couldn't help but think, this is it. If I were a woman, I certainly wouldn't say or do these things unless I felt something for the person I'm speaking with, right? This must be the most obvious sign that she's interested in me. Still, I didn't take any action because I was stuck in this bizarre friendship limbo, not wanting to disrespect her during a time of vulnerability when she might genuinely need a friend or someone to lean on. The issue is that I have been that shoulder for 6 years, through 2 relationships. I don't know if I can continue doing this to myself. It genuinely hurts. I returned home last night feeling the most miserable and depressed I've been in a long time, not because nothing happened, but because I received no answers, and I was too afraid to ask the questions I needed to ask. It consumed my mind to the extent that I couldn't sleep. Before work this morning, I took the plunge and texted her, laying everything out in a respectful, articulate manner. The response I received was far from encouraging, in my opinion. She essentially told me she was indeed just venting and that having sex with anyone at this moment would complicate her situation, which I completely understand. I can handle rejection. In fact, it feels better receiving that rejection than continuously pondering the what-ifs. However, what genuinely hurt was after everything was laid bare, I finally admitted I had a crush on her for years, and the only response I received was, "Oh, I didn't know that." Now, I don't feel entitled to anything, absolutely nothing, but perhaps an acknowledgement like, "I'm sorry you felt that way," would have been more appropriate than just, "Oh, I didn't know." "I didn't know" feels so dismissive. What does that even imply? And furthermore, now that I have disclosed my feelings, she invited me to hang out again, which one might assume is positive, right? But I cannot discern any longer. If the ball was in her court, and I expressed my feelings only to be met with, "Oh, I didn't know," while also suggesting she doesn't want anything with anyone right now, yet also wanted to hang out again. I nearly feel as if, after years of being her shoulder to lean on and emotionally available for her, at the expense of my own mental well-being, that gratitude is not being reciprocated. It feels as if the responsible action on her part would be to cut ties with me if she doesn't envision developing feelings for me, yet she is still attempting to keep me around. I just cannot determine if she needs time to process my confession or if I'm merely the emotional backup. Regardless, I will be severing ties. This is the conclusion. I'm exhausted from consistently second-guessing everything, and I am worth more than this. Know your worth, everyone, or experience years of pain and mixed signals like I have. Perhaps one day I will consider the idea of being friends with her again, but I deserve better, and truthfully, she does too, to enjoy a friendship without any ulterior motives when she simply wishes to vent. So, that's my decision.